Hey everyone, my name's Lily. I'm the book blogger behind Utopia State of Mind, and today I'm going to share with you my top 10 favorite romances that I read in 2021. So I thought February was a perfect month to do romance books as like my first kickoff for favorite reads of 2021. So today I'm going to be sharing 10 favorite romance reads from 2021 that I really loved. I only have one of these in person, so I'm going to start with that one, and it is Weather Girl by Rachel Lynn Solomon. Rachel Lynn Solomon is an auto-buy author for me. Like, I have loved every single Rachel Lynn Solomon book I've read. I think every one that I've read has been 5 stars, and Weather Girl is no exception. What do I love about Weather Girl? Well, what I love about Weather Girl is that I really loved both of the main characters. So Ari and Russell, those are like the main character and also the love interest in Weather Girl. Weather Girl, like a short one-sentence snapshot, is about two TV personas, two people who work in a television studio. One is a weather girl and one is a sports reporter, so it's Ari and Russell, and they decide to hatch a plan basically to get their two ex-wife / ex-husband bosses back together so that the radio station, I'm thinking of the X Talk, so that the television station can be a little bit more harmonious, because the tension is really like getting in the way of everything. So that's kind of the gist of Weather Girl, and I really loved it because I loved both of these characters. Ari is dealing with mental health and sort of the way that mental health affects not only your sort of the image of yourself, but also yourself in a relationship. I thought that was a really like important distinction to make, and what I really loved was Ari's journal. What I really loved was Ari's journey with mental health, and also with like figuring out the type of person that she can be in a relationship. I don't want to like go too far into it, but that really resonated with me in Weather Girl. So this one was just like a ray of sunshine. You know, I could do a bunch of weather puns for Weather Girl. Anyway, this is the only one I have in person, unfortunately, but I love it so much. I got Rachel signed my copy of Weather Girl, so this one is extra special to me, and I love it. The next one, and forgive me if I mess up any details about the plot, and now I'm going chronologically in my year, and so I'm starting with The Intimacy Experiment, which I think I read in like January, so a long time ago, over a year ago, okay? So cut me some slack. Basically, The Intimacy Experiment is by the same author who wrote The Roommate, which I really, really loved. So The Intimacy Experiment takes place with a side character from The Roommate, Naomi, and I can't remember exactly like what the specifics behind Naomi's startup was, but anyway, it's a sex positive startup. And so what I really loved about, and then she meets Ethan, who is the love interest, who is a rabbi at a local synagogue who wants to attract more millennials, and so they team up, and she does like a series of seminars at the synagogue. So basically what I really loved about The Intimacy Experiment was that Naomi, the author through Naomi's perspective, really delves into kind of like the stigma with sex positivity and sex work, and how Naomi like can't get a job in higher education because, you know, people are stigmatizing her. And I really loved that kind of character development. It was super sizzling, like super steamy. And I also really liked how together Naomi kind of, through her getting to know Ethan, kind of changes how she thinks about herself, and also her connection to religion, and also like her connection to the community and to kind of the impact that she can make. I feel like she knows the impact that she can make, but it's nice with the seminars, like it's really nice for her to see people kind of in person and kind of get that reinforcement, I guess, because that's kind of what she wanted to do with being hired by like higher education institutions. I can't remember the exact setup of that, but yeah. Anyway, The Intimacy Experiment was a fantastic kind of sequel companion novel to The Roommate, and I would highly recommend it if you really liked kind of the author's attention to character and also attention to like character dynamics. I thought that was really well done in The Intimacy Experiment. The next one is Hannah Khan Carries On. Hannah Khan, by the way, I'm just like Googling them all, so I make sure that I make as few mistakes as possible. Hannah Khan is basically like it draws a lot of inspiration from You've Got Mail. I wouldn't have, it's been a while since I've read it. I think I read it in February, so I can't be like, oh, it's a retelling of You've Got Mail. I have read, I think, Aisha at Last, which I'm pretty sure is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice, I think. So Hana Khan Carries On was a book that just like took my heart and like gutted it. It was emotionally so intense. Basically, the first half of Hana Khan Carries On, it's about Hana, and Hana is a podcast host, and through the podcast host, she gives like anonymous relationship or anonymous advice. And so Hana also, her family runs a halal restaurant, which is not doing like super well. And then across the street, a new restaurant also opens up, and then they have competition. So that's like the setup for it. And if you've seen You've Got Mail, you'll like kind of be able to maybe figure out what happens in it. So anyway, that was the setup for Hana Khan Carries On. And I think the whole last third, I guess, of it made me so emotional. I was basically almost crying like the entire time. Basically, also in the summary, it says that there's a hate-motivated attack on their neighborhood, which complicates the situation further, like the two competing restaurants. And so basically after that, or like around that period, basically till the end, I was just really moved by the way that the community kind of reacts to it, and sort of, you know, by that entire last part. So I would definitely recommend it, and definitely a pick if you like You've Got Mail. I have watched You've Got Mail a lot as like a child/teen, because it was one of my parents' favorite kind of comfort movies, so this one was kind of like nostalgic for me in that sense. So I would definitely recommend that one. The next book I want to talk about is Act Your Age, Eve Brown. This is the final, I think the final one, or at least the latest in the Brown Sister series by Talia Hibbert. I have loved every single Brown Sister book. They've all been 5 stars for me. Act Your Age, Eve Brown was no exception. It was fantastic. It features Eve, who a lot of people, or the description says the flightiest Brown sister. So basically she like she's driving her car and she runs into a person, and I think hurts his arm. I don't remember if it's like broken or whatever. He's the owner of a B&B, which is like super understaffed, and basically since now he's injured, Eve decides, or you know, decides to help because, you know, like she caused it. So that's kind of their meet cute. And what I really loved about Act Your Age, Eve Brown was that Eve and kind of Eve's family have an interesting dynamic where kind of, as she said, flightiest, right? Eve flits from a lot of different things, and so I think a lot of Act Your Age, Eve Brown was Eve's character journey, not only about exploring how her family feels about her and then her about her family, but also how she feels about herself and how her family's perceptions have kind of bled into that dynamic. And so I really kind of resonated on a much deeper level than I was expecting with that journey, and sort of navigating that relationship and the complexity about your own self-perception, and especially when it's influenced by your family. And it was super steamy. I listened to this one on audiobook, which was certainly an experience. I had to take a little bit of a break when I was like doing, you know, errands, but this one was super steamy, so fabulous, 5 stars. As I said, I love this series so much, and I would highly recommend it if you really love like detailed characters that kind of emotionally get to the heart of kind of who you are as a person. I've loved every Talia Hibbert book I've read, but the Brown Sisters ones are just like, oh, the cream of the crop. The next one is Happy Endings. This is kind of like a second chance romance about exes. So basically, Trixie and her ex Andre. So Andre breaks up with her like ages ago on a post-it note, and so she like finally comes back into his life. She owns a sex toy business which has done a pop-up event. And then she runs into her ex, who owns a soul food restaurant, which is like not doing super well. So they decide to kind of host events where she'll have like sex toy pop-ups at his restaurant because she needs space to do that. And then he'll like give them food basically. So kind of a collaboration, maybe a little bit like in the intimacy experiment. But anyway, so that's how they come back into each other's life. This one had a surprising amount of depth about grief, because there's a lot of like things about Andre and why, and like why they broke up, why on a post-it note, for example. And so it delves a lot in Andre's perspective about grief. And what I really loved was that, like, I was not expecting that at all, to be honest. It's a dual perspective romance book, so we were able to really like get into Andre's character and figure out like why this happened. And I love second chance romances because they really force the characters not only to meet each other where they are, but also interrogate where they were before and kind of what happened and what went wrong. I find that dynamic really fascinating. And I want to look down at my list. I think this is the only like second chance romance book that is on it, and it was fabulous. I loved the sex positivity of happy endings, and it was just like really funny but also very emotional at the same time. The next one is Isn't It Romantic? This is the latest in the Bromance Book Club. I don't know if there's going to be any more, but basically I thought that I couldn't really love a book more than I loved the last one. I don't remember what the last one was called. Hold on. I will look it up. Then Crazy Stupid Bromance. Oh my god, there is going to be another one. A Very Merry Bromance. Oh, I'm so excited. I didn't think that I could love anything more than Crazy Stupid Bromance because I loved like Friends to Lovers. I'm pretty sure Crazy Stupid Bromance was the Friends to Lovers. But Isn't It Romantic starts with like, it's interesting. I don't really know how to describe it. Basically, it happens with Vlad, aka the Russian, from all of the other books before. And it talks about him and his wife, Elena, who we really only got to know in Crazy Stupid Bromance, and only for like a second. But what I really love is that Vlad loves romance novels, and in this one, he kind of delves into exploring writing his own romance novel, which I thought was super sweet. But Elena and Vlad have a really interesting relationship. It's kind of like marriage of convenience meets like childhood friends, if I can really describe it very well. But basically, like, Elena is thinking about going back to Russia for a variety of reasons that is delved into in her perspective. And then Vlad has to figure out if he can like win her over, and also figure out like why their relationship has not really been working. So that's kind of, there's so many intricacies about what, you know, what happened with their relationship, what happened with Elena, like a lot of different things that I don't want to spoil. But what I really loved is like, okay, I felt like Vlad in all of the other books was basically just used as comic relief, you know, because they were like, oh, Vlad's lactose intolerant and he ate some cheese, right? Like all of that. And that was kind of sad to me because I am lactose intolerant and I didn't love that. But anyway, so what I really loved about Crazy Stupid Bromance, and kind of what I really loved in a variety of these books that I read in 2021, which were side characters from other books, was that side characters have a lot of story behind like what we see in a main character's life. And so what I really loved in Isn't It Romantic was that it delves so much into Vlad's character, which we didn't know anything about before, you know, except that he was lactose intolerant and really liked cheese sometimes. So what I really loved is that it gave me so much more insight into who he was as a person, and his character just like opened up 1,000-fold, and he just like ended up really getting a spot in my heart, you know, about how he loves romance novels and thinking about writing some of his own. And I really loved that aspect. I really love, it'll come up later in a different book, but I really love when a character in a book is like writing a book or writing something. I think that's like a fun little meta Easter egg. And so that's why I really love this one. This one was so sweet because it kind of swept me away. I had no idea, no expectations. And so this one like blew no expectations out of the water. The next one is So We Meet Again by Suzanne Park. Suzanne Park, another auto by author. I love all of Suzanne's books. But So We Meet Again, it has to be my favorite of Suzanne's adult books. So basically, I'm looking at the summary. Basically, the main character, Jessie, is laid off. She's an investment banker and she's laid off. And then she goes back and she moves back with her family. She helps her family, and when she helps her family, she runs into her old childhood nemesis. And her family is like, really loves him. Like, he's the golden child, basically, of the community. And then he helps her to relaunch a Korean cooking like YouTube channel that she had, you know, ages ago, for easy meal prep for professionals. This is kind of something she was doing before she became an investment banker. And so she helps, Danielle helps her kind of relaunch her career. And what I really loved about this was that I felt like, first of all, it was so relatable, and like if I ran into someone from high school, that cut me deep. But also what I loved about it was also the interaction between the main character, so Jessie, her and her family, and navigating like how it feels when you feel like there's a golden child, which is not you, in your family, and also kind of coming back from a career to moving back with your family, and you know, having that relationship where you're like an adult now, you've lived on your own, you've done stuff, and you come back and you live with your family and your parents, and it's a different relationship and there are different dynamics. And so I really enjoyed how that was explored in the book. And another thing I really loved is that in So We Meet Again, it really delves into like, is Daniel's life as the golden child of the community as perfect as it seems? And I really enjoyed how Suzanne kind of breaks that down. And kind of similarly to that is this theme that I really loved, where it examines the connection between achievement and self-value, and how you can be so concerned with like how you seem on paper or on LinkedIn or on Instagram, but also how you connect that to like how you see yourself, basically. So it not only talks about Jess and like Jess's past as an investment banker, but in a lot of different characters within So We Meet Again, how they kind of explore their relationship of their sort of self-image and their achievement according to, you know, a community, family, parents, even themselves. The next one is A Lot Like Adios, which I kind of teased before with the writing part. Okay, I will tell you about the summary, but let me first say, what I loved about A Lot Like Adios is that in the book, the main characters, Gabrielle and Michelle, they were friends before. I'm reading this right now. They were friends before, like childhood friends slash like teen friends, basically. This is another like second chance romance. And then they meet again, basically. And when they meet again, what I loved is that it brings into the book actually pieces of fanfic they co-written together of, I think, like a sci-fi show. They co-written together, and it brings in their old text conversations about them writing this fanfic, but also the fanfic itself. Like it felt so immersive in a way that it allows you to get to know the characters in a completely different way. I thought that was so unique. It was instantly, as soon as I got to those chapters, I was like, oh my god, this is so fun. This is so entertaining, and such a different way to get to know the characters that just like skyrocketed how I felt about A Lot Like Adios. Very steamy, very good. So basically, we'll go back to the summary. So basically, it's Michelle. Michelle used to be a corporate marketing career, but then she also is a freelance business as a graphic designer. And so Gabrielle, he owns or co-owns a celebrity gym, and so they decide to bring in Michelle as a graphic designer to bring it to like advise the company, basically, or like spearhead kind of a new marketing campaign. And they reconnect after, I think it just say 13 years after like a second chance encounter, basically. I won't get into the details, but a second chance encounter. And they have to deal with not only those feelings, but kind of similarly, I guess when I said this is the only ones for a second chance romance, I was totally wrong. I only kind of remember the buzzworthy tropes at the end, but they have to navigate those feelings, but also navigate a lot of different things about, for example, why Gabrielle left. Where are they? I think, left the Bronx at 18, and so he has to kind of really delve into his past, and while delving into his past, he has to delve into what happened between him and Michelle all those years ago. So I think what I really loved about A Lot Like Adios, you know, besides everything I've already said, is Gabrielle's navigating his own relationship with his family, and also the potential, you know, if he were to return to the Bronx, all of those kinds of things, because Michelle is like super connected still to her family. So, and her family, I'm pretty sure, are like neighbors of Gabrielle. I don't remember if they're neighbors, but they live very closely. And the community that they're in, like, run in similar circles. So I really enjoyed Gabrielle having to look into those conflicting feelings, those kind of resentments, those complexities of family, with also the romance. And also, I'm pretty sure this is a series. Yeah, Primas of Power, and there's going to be another one. I really liked, what was it? I really liked You Had Me at Hola before, but I think A Lot Like Adios is my favorite one of this series for sure. The next one is one I actually read in December, so it is one of the freshest books on my mind, and it's The Charm Offensive. Okay, I'd been seeing this all over Instagram and all over Twitter, more on Twitter actually than Instagram, and I read it. I'm still gonna look at the synopsis so I don't get anything wrong, but basically it happens on a reality TV show. One of the main characters, Dev, he is the producer. He's the producer in the show, dating show Ever After. And so Charlie is actually the prince in Ever After. So he is cast, or not cast, I guess he volunteers into Ever After to be like that dating contestant. And so Dev is the one who has to produce the show. And also Dev is assigned to be his like production person, his go-to like production person. And then Sparks fly, and it is dual perspective, and Sparks fly, and they really get to know a lot more about Charlie and Dev. Oh my goodness, this one was just so cute. Like, it was just, it tugged at my heartstrings. Also in December, when I was at the end of 2021, I just really wanted to read like romance stories. I wanted to end 2021 on a very like happy romantic thing, and also my brain could really only handle romance stories basically at like book 430. So what I just loved it. It was like heartwarming, witty. I really loved sinking into Dev's and Charlie's characters. It was dual perspective as well, I'm pretty sure. And it was just like so sweet. I actually haven't even written the review, so I was checking my Goodreads to see if I had written a review yet. I haven't. I'm so behind on writing reviews for the end of December. So I really loved it. It was just really charming, and it was like so, it just made me feel so good, especially at the end. It really looks at like what you feel is your happily ever after, right? Because I feel like, and it talks a little bit about Dev, because Dev believes in fairy tales, he believes in love, he believes in like ever after's mission. And so it really kind of explores what it means to live happily ever, and like what is happily ever after to someone. It also tackles kind of homophobia and a lot of and racism like in the TV world as well, which I found super fascinating. So that was another aspect of why I loved it. And I don't know, at the end of the day, like these books, they just made me feel something in my cold, burnt out heart, and that's why I made the list. The next one is The Love Hypothesis. Okay, I read it. Book Talk like made me read this one. If you didn't know, all I knew about The Love Hypothesis going into it was that it was supposedly Kylo Ren fanfic, or like basically inspired by it. I don't actually know. But anyway, it has fake dating, and it features Olivia, who's a PhD candidate, and she doesn't believe in like relationships at all. But basically her best friend starts to have feelings for like Olivia's ex, who she doesn't care about, but her best friend won't kind of act on her feelings towards Olivia's ex unless she feels like Olivia's over her ex. And so basically then Olivia decides to like fake date Adam Carlson, who is a professor and also known as being like a very tough professor. Basically no one in the department really likes him. And so against basically all odds, they managed to convince everyone that they're fake dating, even though they're like, how is this happening? But they managed to convince people, and you know, ensue romance plotline. Okay, so I heard that it was Kylo Ren fanfic or whatever, or you know, whatever, you know, I heard words like that related to The Love Hypothesis. So every time that I read The Love Hypothesis, I could not imagine anyone than Adam Driver being Adam Carlson. Adam, that's all I'm saying. So, you know, that influenced my reading experience. I don't know in a good way or a bad way, but like Adam Driver now is the face of the Adam that I think about for The Love Hypothesis. This one was okay, I love fake dating. I also love like STEM, PhD, like academic stories as well. So it was like fake dating, STEM, academic like thing, you know, tensions / academic environment. I really also loved the tropes of, I think it was the tropes of like grumpy, it was the tropes of like grumpy protective person who actually has like, is hiding a cinnamon roll heart and meets this like sunshiny but doesn't believe it. Like, okay, this one had so many trope / you know, archetypes that I see a lot, and I loved it. I loved it. I fell for it, and this one just was like so fun. I remember reading this on my floor being like, yeah, I'm into it. I'm into the like gooey tropies. I'm into it. I like it. Like, okay, book talk, you got me, essentially. Now I'm really excited for the sequel. You know, these these romance books just really kind of make my heart happy and entertain me and take me away from like these really intense fantasy sci-fi worlds of like magical worlds and like magical battles and stuff like that. And you know, there's trauma and grief and exploration of themes and family and identity and everything in these romance books, but like there is something so good about a guaranteed happily ever after that I just come back to over and over again in romance books. They're like that saving grace for me, because I feel like in a lot of the books that I'm reading, you know, it's a happily ever after isn't always guaranteed, but in romance, that safety net just kind of cradles me to sleep, you know, because I'm reading these before bed. It cradles me to sleep. It makes me so happy, and that's all I want. That's all I want at the end of the day, to be happy. So yeah, these were the 10 favorite romance books, featuring only one of them, which I have, but the 10 favorite romance reads of 2021, February style. This is the first kickoff video. I hope you really enjoyed this kind of rambling mini review style. I gotta get better, maybe at, like, doing better plot summaries. I used to be really good at it, but you know, 438 books, no brain cells left at all. I hope you really enjoyed. I have been feeling like in the romance mood for, you know, 2 years, basically. And so I thought it would be really fun to do a dedicated favorites for you of romance read favorites of 2021, which you should read in 2022 if you haven't. Let me know below if you've read any of these books and really love them, especially if you read The Love Hypothesis. I want to chat about that one. And if you had any other favorite romance reads of 2021 / your entire life, I guess. In December, I picked up kind of like fan favorites with The Charm Offensive and The Love Hypothesis. So, you know, I'm easily bullied. I'll read it, I guess. So just let me know in the comments below. And I hope to see you in the next video and also the next favorites video, because this was very February love, you know, Valentine's Day themed. But I'm excited to really get into the other ones for you. Okay, bye!